Fallout 4 has a small to moderately disappointing wardrobe, and sure, most people spend a lot of time worrying about how they present themselves to others. Not this guy. Yo dudes and dudettes, and whatever Codsworth identifies as, this is Ketchu. And today, we're asking the only question that matters. Can you beat Fallout 4 completely naked? While waiting for the character sheet, I wandered around the living room silently judging the empty picture frames. Since I'll be strutting across the Commonwealth in my birthday suit, I put 9 points into charisma, because confidence is all I've got, and 8 into intelligence, because in my mind it would help me survive the absence of pants. Then there was a panic. I basked in Atom's glow. Tried to network with other cryo enthusiasts unsuccessfully. Made my way to the fridge. Wife departed to greet our ancestors. And I got ejected like a Lunchable from my reverse microwave. Before doing anything reckless, I tried to remove the vault suit using console commands. With the few minutes I spent on research and stuff, nothing worked. So I took the coward's route. No fighting, no biting. Just power walking past roaches until I could get that sweet Pip-Boy and finally free my flesh. As expected, I'm terrible at everything I do. The roaches gnawed off 80% of my HP, my dignity, and a little bit of my will to live. And just when I thought it was over, one tiny bastard, who had been lobbing as a floor tile, popped out and finished the job emotionally. Finally free from cotton prison, I returned to the vault to show those bugs what true nudity looks like. But the roaches had vanished, gone, as if they feared the glisten of my rat-soaked torso. I didn't hear no bell. And they said I'd never survive out there without armor. Joke's on them, I barely survived in here. Out in the real game, wild and free, I tried my hand at some science, talked to Codsworth at Sanctuary, stashed my wife's final words on a toilet for safekeeping, put another point in charisma, and followed my butler around to clean up the winged pests in the neighborhood. Codsworth suggested I go to Concord to see how well bullets bounce off my flesh. I responded by practicing my ventriloquism.
I like these people already.
After that, I went around digging for treasures, lost my ring when I dropped it on the ground, stripped Sanctuary of anything that wasn't nailed down, then unnailed a few things, until I got bored, built a little something. Didn't go too wild with the construction yet, but I have plans. Big plans. Stay tuned. Wink wink. Wink. My body is an exhibit, and it must be shared with the world. It's not shrieking if you never stop. Stopping by Red Rocket, I picked up dark meat, ripped the place apart, including the rats, and logged all the materials to Sanctuary. In Concord, I turned the insides of the bandits' heads into Rorschach test on the pavement. Inside the museum, the raiders couldn't handle the raw force of my 10mm, my dangerously unadulterated overinflated self-esteem, or the unwashed power radiating from my tighty yellowies. After braining my next perk, I used the undiscovered element not found on the periodic table, the element of surprise, on the 2 remaining door-to-door butt bandits. Preston scanned my naked, blood-splattered body and my unhinged smile, then decided I was the perfect candidate for his next round of emotional labor. I got lost in Mama Murphy's disturbingly red eyes, snagged the power armor and the minigun as tradition demands, fast traveled to Sanctuary, exited the power armor, then instant transmissioned right back like I forgot my keys. Thanks to the power of tactical teleportation, I got to set the Deathclaw free while only running half the lap through gunfire. Neat! No! I sat back in the corner store while the big orange failed chameleon fed nail nurses to the stinky idiots. When it was my turn on the cutting board, the claw machine spooked the absolute poop out of me by blinking inside like a demonic genie. He wasn't done though. Next he demonstrated his flight capabilities. What? These things stay in shape by chasing me through my sleep paralysis. Eventually, I tucked the big lizard in for an eternal nap. Preston gave me a thumbs up, and I tried cheering up Margie with some body pillows. Didn't work. Back outside, I sweep the stink loot dispensers clean, use their junk to stuff Carla like a trash turkey, politely told Wolfgang to go wrestle a porcupine, and pick inspirational as my next perk, which is what I assume radiates from my beautiful temple I call my body. Then I started vacuuming all of Concord harder than a room-bound Red Bull. I am the garbage queen. I'd say trasking, but that title is taken. Looks like these guys were busy making out when the bombs fell. What did I just walk into? Someone's art exhibit? I'ma drink that. Delicious! After Concord was as empty as my moral compass, I met this cartoon character. He apparently ate some decayed old canned expired used to be solid food and had the worst case of a tummy typhoon. Luckily, I had the relief he needed on hand. Back at Sanctuary, I gifted Marzi a clean blue dress, hoping she'd finally stop acting like I ran over her cat, which I didn't, by the way. I checked, with my sights on the big green jewel, or as I like to call it, stadium-sized trash heap deluxe. I made a pit stop at Starlight Drive-In to put the local rat population back in the dirt. There was this trap I wanted to trigger manually, you know, for the XP. But before I could get clever about it... Ah, gee, thanks, Dog Meat. Real helpful. After mopping up the drive-in like an over-caffeinated janitor, I got my nose lovingly rearranged by a pack of ghouls who were way too into it. Gave a quick hello to the Corvega butt goblins, picked local leader as my next perk to bulk up my naked influence, popped some zombie kneecaps alongside Paladin Flamenco, or whatever his name was. Also bullied some bridge trolls just to keep my cardio up. Near Diamond City, I helped the guards to feed some bullet brunches to the orcs. Or breakfasts? I don't actually know what the time was. I have a watch, but looking at it is like a bicep curl and a half. Strangely, I didn't take any damage during the fight. Apparently the mutants took one look at the naked man charging them and decided they have enough trauma as is. Before entering Diamond City, I had to dismiss Dark Meat because I knew he'd make the next part difficult. Oh, this breaks my heart every time. I'm sorry, boy. Then I slapped Piper in the dignity just hard enough to open the gate, and slipped in ignoring McDonut, the bureaucratic jelly bean. My first self-appointed mission, track down Kyle and Riley, before they could throw their patented, tragic gunpowder surprise party. Despite my best efforts, and a solid 5 minutes of running in increasingly desperate circles, I never found them. Maybe they're dead. Maybe I'm dead. Maybe this is a metaphor. Who knows? After that, I cleared Myrna's house of most loose items simply because I've never been there before. Percy watched the entire thing from his roost with the enthusiasm of a retired toaster. Over at Piper's office, I sat my way through the interview, and that's how I recruited your mother, kids.
No, absolutely not, Piper. Smoking's bad for you, okay?
I squeezed whatever promise of cash I could out of Ellie, the Empress of Scientific Hair, young Voldemort, and the old-timer licking the wall. Piper didn't like that I charged for my labor. Sorry, sweetie. I'm morally bankrupt and financially curious. I might have to get another motto for you guys. After harvesting every community crop, a barmaid with an accent asked if I could handle myself in a fight. I'm like a disappointing slug without its shell. Then I did some trash picking, chose Wasteland Whisperer and Hacker as my next perks, dug up Bug Bladder for the science lady, and threw the stupid newspaper back in Nat's face.
Oh, what I wouldn't give for a camera right now.
Yeah, I get it.
Following that, I traded a mine, handful of bullets, and a grenade for some green paint at the hardware store. Naturally, I spent some minutes picking the place apart like a radioactive waste vulture with no concept of shame. Yeah, sure, that may as well happen. When I told Preston about my missing son, he offered exactly zero help, and instead 1 metric ton of chores. Didn't even blink.
I had word from a settlement asking for help.
Who the freak kicked your dog ball away, huh? Yeah, if I catch that son of a gun, he's going to pay for it. Dearly.
For my next trick, I started helping Sturges. His first mission for me, get them something to sleep on.
So you want beds, eh? You shall get beds. Alright, beds are freaking done. Couldn't go much higher than that, but I gave them the best freaking place possible.
What we need now is a reliable source of clean water.
Oh, you want water? Well, you're going to get it, mister. And the water is done. If you want water, all you need to do is follow the path I've laid out for you. I mean, cardio is important, right? And here you go.
I could have gone way harder on this, but I'm not a total monster, you see. The next labor on the list, feed for the livestock. You want yummy in your tummy? I got you, bro. Behold, the crops have been planted, and the path here is a bit of a maze. Well, not really a maze, just aggressively inconvenient.
But that's what you get. That's what you get from for not doing this on your own. Can I? Here. See ya.
Why can't I feel my leg?
I'm sorry, Piper. Experiment.
Huh?
You'll be fine. Now I have to assign a freaking settler onto the food plots on my own. Why is this so difficult? So you want defenses, eh? I'm freaking on it. Well, all I could afford for now was these 3 turrets here, but they will be adequate in providing defense since this is the only way to get up here and reach our food supply. Or our beds. These guys will be shooting the enemies in the back. There will be more. There's plenty of space for more turrets here. Sturgis, are you happy?
My door's always open to you. Windows too.
You don't have either of those things. Yeah, you better be happy. I think this is quite amazing.
And to lay some finishing touches, I created this recreational area for the livestock. Just need to move this over a bit. And the other one. Perfect.
I can't wait to see these Pamela horses in action. I made them super exciting for everyone.
Yo! Now what if I try to leave?
Okay.
It's fine.
Blue, where are your pants?
Up yours, Piper. Clothes would feel sorry being on me. I'm doing them a favor. From there, I decided to let Paladin break drill me. Cleaned the police station from floor to ceiling. Almost wore sunglasses for the aesthetic bonus, but decided I wasn't emotionally stable enough to look that cool. Then we waddled over to Arc Jet Systems, where I immediately went into Loot Gremlin mode. See? Once the Brotherhood goobers show up later to salvage the site, I want them to find exactly nothing. The sins were even more worthless than usual, like toasters with anxiety. I missed most of the fighting while picking up bent screwdrivers. I wasn't even present when the fire support part was completed. Piper starred in her breakout role as the donkey, a performance so convincing it earned her half a Radio Shack on her spine and 0 gratitude from the Academy. Watching Tango get cooked never gets old, especially when you have someone to watch the show with. One elevator ride later, I took damage for the first time inside Arc Jet. We got the McMuffin our big bro was after, I got the laser rifle from him, and Piper said she'd always have my back. I guess as long as I don't get paid well, it's fine. As the next thing I could do, I picked the second rank for the animal friend, dropped off a bunch of crap to Sanctuary, and skipped back to Arc Jet to grab my hoarded loot pile by the entrance.
Yeah, just play it cool. I get it.
Do I look like I want to chit-chat?
Perfect. Then don't. On my way to Park Street Station, I turned some wild dogs into hot dogs. Got a little distracted. Somehow ended up on the roofs. I don't know how this keeps happening to me. You probably already guessed it, but I filled my inventory with anything audacious enough to exist in my line of sight. Some minutes later, I took a cozy little break with my new best friends, Skeletoni and Skeletina. It was intimate. We shared dreams. We laughed. We decomposed together. Later, I was comparing a mannequin's assets to Piper's. She didn't like that. Like at all. She tackled my potential AI girlfriend with the power of jealousy. Or insecurity. I'm not picky. Further down the future, we forcefully evicted a raider's soul out of his home. He had a cool clock and an ugly painting on his wall that I couldn't get, which pissed me off. 10 out of 10. Would commit art theft if Bethesda would let me. Finally, at the station, I was met with a severe lack of friendliness in the lobby. The triggermen, despite not wearing any armor, could eat bullets like sponges. They were the first enemies to give me trouble. Real, legitimate, I might die here trouble. So naturally, I burned through more steam packs than a junkie at a medical convention. After seeing me pick another lock, Piper couldn't hold back anymore, and forcefully twisted my neck towards her in the middle of my data snooping. Then she emotionally trauma dumped on me. Thanks, Piper. Second floor wasn't any easier. I took down all but one guy with extreme caution and suppressed whining. The remaining Bat Baron showed me why my idea of a glory kill was a bad one. The last guy of the next group was hiding behind an excavator, focused on Piper. I did a successful flank on the guy, but Piper clearly didn't understand the maneuver or the concept of crossfire.
Piper, do you mind?
It's like playing competitive FPS again.
Wacha! Knock knock! Open wide! Incoming! All that jazz.
On the way to save Mr. Gadget. If we don't count this one clean sneak attack, the remaining triggermen had me regretting not modding my guns for that extra oomph. Trying my luck again. The last butthole of the bunch zigzagged in front of me like a dummy in Spec Ops shooting drill. Stop dancing and die, you overcooked breadstick! At the catwalks, I carefully collected a neat pile of corpses beneath the highest point. Why? Because I wanted to Assassin's Creed into them for style points. Naturally, my plan flopped just like a dead fish on a trampoline.
That was such a terrible freaking idea. Oh, what the freak was I thinking? Using body pillows as cushions, oh my lord.
Piper probably had fun watching me do all that. Hey Piper, please test the fall for me this time, yeah? A few cracked bones later, I bombed Dino. fed his remains to Piper, and saved Nick, the private investigator, which in layman's terms means he's a gynecologist. While fighting Dino's friends, I finally remembered to try pacifying my opposition with my naked charisma, only to have it not work on any of them. Before long, we met Skinny Malone. I convinced his girl to leave him, then handed him his lunchbox, thinking he's so big Thanos would have to snap twice to get rid of him. They painted the vault's entrance in funny colors. Because I wanted to grab everything in one go, I spent over an hour in that cursed place, trying to make Piper pick up the garbage like a good little donkey is tiresome enough on its own, and sometimes she just flat out refuses to play ball. Back in the Mojave wasteland, I told Nick I'd catch up after picking up some milk, picked Local Leader 2 as my next perk, and used it to open a sad strip mall in Sanctuary. I didn't think it was possible, but Mama Murphy found a way to disappoint me even further. On the way to capture a settlement for Preston, a bloatfly tried to make babies with my face. I stopped by the satellite to mark it down on the map. Piper tanked the chili rat like a linebacker on bath salt. And a feral pupper jump-scared a deeper yellow hue into my underwear. At Tempines Bluff, raiders, Corvega butt plant, you know the drill. Inside the factory, it was like a carnival shooting range with no escape. The targets moved, shot back, and the carny is begging me to stop aiming at the plushies. I hacked the dormant Protectron to do the heavy lifting, only to have it turn on me and start a surprise game of laser tag. After sneaking away and circling back, the robot bro waddled in and took out the bandit leader for me. Then he turned on me again, and tried to scorch my eyebrows off, so I had to put him down. Rest in peace, Rabbit Roomba. You fried well.
Come on, Piper. Come on. Oh, okay. Just kidding. Just trying to scare ya.
The point of this little side quest was to acquire the settlers, ship them off to Sanctuary, and boost my labor count manually. Because waiting for settlers to show up on their own feels like watching my underwear dry. Turns out, you can't send them anywhere. Or if you can. My 2 brain cells doing a 3-legged race couldn't figure it out. My architectural ambitions were on life support, so I went to run another errand for Garvey. On the way, I liquidated every drop of water I owned to a passing trader. Seconds later, a homeless guy begged me for a sip, so I hiked all the way back, bought back my own water at a markup, and handed it over like a guilt-ridden camel. Lately I've been trying this pacifier enemy shtick. It had failed, repeatedly, like impressively, like maybe I'm the problem levels of failure. Until Sunshine Tidings Co-op, where it finally worked on a ghoul, who immediately got angrier. Apparently he just wanted to be mad calmly. After anything with a pulse had a bullet hole, I flicked the recruitment beacon on and off like a tired IT support, and took it down. The joint wasn't ready for any kind of intelligent suffering yet. That one settler who had the misfortune of showing up was designated to hauling all the junk to Sanctuary. As soon as he showed up, he was sent back out. Preston was so proud of me that he couldn't contain himself and exploded into 3 more quests. Pain truly is a renewable resource. After a few unlucky souls wandered into Sanctuary, I gifted them the ultimate curse, passion, suits for the gents, and dresses for the ladies. Except for Mama Murphy, who'd rather keep abusing the pharmacist's bounty instead of switching clothes. Even with Charisma 10, I couldn't convince her to stop chasing the pharmacist's high score. She's basically 1 chems menu away from becoming a walk-in CVS receipt. And so I stood there, proud of the little slice of hell I've created. A bogey prison where hope comes dressed in second-hand polyester. A ceaseless torment for those who just wanted clean water and maybe a bed. The price? Not your soul. Just a lifetime of mild inconvenience and incompetent leadership. So, you know, real life. But at least it's classy.
Yup, works fine.
Before leaving, I encountered rush hour. Not with cars, but with brain-dead NPCs congesting the stairs like a human cholesterol problem. Without warning, Ellie threw a reward at me for bringing Nick back, caps, and a whole outfit. Unfortunately, the getup flattered Piper like a sack of turnips in a tux. After handing Nick the details, we made it to Kellogg's door. I ran up to the mayor's secretary, reached her into forking the key, and she said my son is lucky to have a father like me. I can see that. Not too long after, I hoovered up the loot like a Dyson in a cereal aisle, swapped Piper for Nick, got mad I couldn't play dress up with the Tin Man, failed to cash in a reality check, found Kellogg's couch fort, stared in awe at our resident jethead's agility, and Nick was super helpful when I was scoping to erase some bandit domes like zits. At Combat Zone, I handed 2 tied-up smugs some high-speed metal injections, and traded Nick for the performative iris. That's right, dress-ups are back on, baby. Well, there's Codsworth on the roof. Guess it's one of those kinda days. On my way to Good Neighbor, the local wildlife decided to speedrun their life straight into the pavement, and I expanded my brain with science too. Kate was a fantastic bait, but this time, it was my master plan that didn't pan. I take 80% accountability. Despite having spiritually mapped the best way to reach Hancock's dumpster paradise in previous lives, I still got lost among the rubble of the place where I wanted to be. I speech Finn into returning to Adventure Time, and the mayor helped him complete the isekai part. Then I swiped the mini nuke and the fat man from the robot that makes me feel weird. Back at Sanctuary, with the power of bravery choose. I finally convinced Mama Murphy to stop being so disappointing, and that allowed me to dress her up with something more classy. The post-apocalyptic vending machines in the cereal box hit harder than my emotional baggage. Turns out energy weapons really sting when you're cosplaying as Adam from the Bible. I went out of my way to hack a protect run to help us out, only to have it conveniently not do anything this time around. Great help, thanks. Once I adjusted to the crap factor, the sins were manageable. I even took a break to play with the funny red light and was shocked to see Kate charge her batteries. Despite my nudity, Kellogg folded like a deck chair. I blasted some jet just to watch it all happen in slow-mo spaghetti time. Vengeance hurt me just as much it hurt him. I went full Hannibal Lecter on his brain, but had to pause when I crunched into something that didn't feel FDA approved. On the way out, Kate hover-handed herself, we watched the big balloon, and I passed Kellogg's outfit to a new settler. Because I keep adding more crap to the vault, the load times when resting or waiting are getting increasingly longer. I handed Kate's old closet to some new dude who showed up. Despite him stretching it into ruination, it looked so good. He now works at the bar.
Hey Kate, you got a great rack.
Deep in Diamond City Market, I played a spirited game of bullet tag with a child. The townsfolk frowned upon that, no idea why. Bunch of fun haters. Moments later, I had the ice cream scoop convo, picked locksmith as my next perk, and scavenged Nick's stuff before leaving. Swimming through the stench of Good Neighbor, I briefly contemplated making history. I did you know what inside the memory den? Met with Professor Amari, and we turned the old buckethead into a virtual boy. It was fantastic. Like an overambitious pharaoh, I tried to take a random assortment of wealth with me to the other side. The items didn't survive the dream TSA. Nothing made it into my breakfast dimension. Inside the brain noodles, we figured out the Institute's transportation secret, fast travel carpets. Also, some rogue scientist is out there causing trouble, but mostly carpets. Back in the reality that's less of a pain, I thought Amari I'd run through glowing scene naked, and this time, I meant it. She felt obligated to spell out the result.
D-E-A-D.
I'm not going to listen. She's not even my real mom. On my way out, I gave Nick the old sarcastic send-off.
You wanna try for round 2? Let's go! What?
Back at base, I finally gave Kate the emotional nudge she needed. She was basically asking for it.
They got my damn leg. Don't mind me. Just admiring the view.
You have a good taste. That's when it hit me. Kate is the perfect companion for this run. The longer I streak, the happier she gets. She's the one. That's why she got the green dress. I gently nudged the car, which tried to return the favor by almost killing me. Love is a two-way street. Then I saw some Minutemen fighting gunners. I fed the gunners lead from a distance. They now live on a farm upstate, a very irradiated one. Their assaultron sidekick nearly turned me into a pile of dust and fashionable underwear. A powerful look, but not the one I wanted. Afterward, we had a calm little nap. Kate had a mental aneurysm so intense I thought she'd explode. Turns out, she really wanted to show off her legs that day. Can't blame her. Post-apocalyptic Thai game on point. Eventually, finally, I reached the glowing sea. While crossing it with the power of Radaway, Radex, and unwashed confidence, I learned just how much these flying murder stings get under my skin. Did you know the stingwings can dodge bullets? Because I didn't. Also, experiencing rat scorpions trying to gestate me with poison wasn't such a good time either. Sea sailing further into the glowing desert, I stopped to return a favor to one enclave dude. He's got no idea, but he did me a solid in a past timeline. Can you stick it somewhere where the sun don't shine? Not mine! After putting Virgil's pet lizard back to sleep, I met the big green himself. He asked me to retrieve a Corsa's head, and I took Inspirational Mark II at level 19. Back in the past, when I came home from work, the cats I used to have would shake their tails like they were about to blast off from sheer excitement. I imagine Piper here is doing a similar thing.
Sure, let me just stop what I'm doing to talk to you.
If only I had Fushroda. I spent quite a while watching our doctor do gymnastics. I was very invested in finding out how the non-immortal guys handle my designs. Oof, she didn't die. I was sort of worried about that. See? Our doctor is fine.
A second. I got something I want to say to you.
Of course, she picks the exact moment we are walking into active war zone to emotionally speedrun her trauma. And like a true conversational hostage, I couldn't stop myself from trying to talk my way into a hole. Anyway, we were off to find the mechanical people snatcher, aka the Corsa, aka that guy who's about to get his jacket stolen by a nudist with boundary issues. You know, I thought I was moderately well leveled and stuff. Turns out the gunners don't play. It was time to get serious. So I did the mature thing. Leaned forward, gripped the mouse like a stress ball, and wore my gamer face. The gunners became much more manageable. Turns out the secret was respect and bottled arson. Looking back, I totally forgot pacify was an option, which was kind of the core idea of this run, but I was just enjoying the gunplay way too much. Having said that, can we talk about those tiny environmental gaps that look shootable, but aren't? Very immersive. Thanks, Todd. To no one's surprise, as always, the bridge with the missile-launching moron was such a treat, if not more than usual. Who does this guy think he is? Neo from the Matrix? Bro, you are not the one. You are done. The forceful people recruiter was confused why a naked man was stalking him. I wanted his jacket, of course. Round 2, I didn't try to tank the lunchbox with my naked body. Did you know a missile launcher makes an awful close-range weapon, despite blowing my arms off multiple times? It took me a while to change my strategy. Thanks for the chip, loser. And your dignity. The hostages? They didn't make it. You can't save everyone. Then again, I haven't actually tried. I'm just gonna leave her there. She'll be fine. There's probably a help button in there somewhere, like in an elevator.
Damn it! My legs hit.
Back in Good Neighbor, Dr. Amari finally gave me the English textbook 101 answer to where the train station lives. For my next perk, I picked Caps Collector, because I had big dreams of buying mini nukes like a responsible adult. So I upgraded the strip mall, just to find no mushrooms in stock. Fiddlesticks! Fast traveling to a super mutant nest I hadn't cleaned out yet wasn't my brain's best work. Later in the train station, we brought shotguns to a zombie fight, which felt thematically correct. We had 2 of them. Shotguns, not zombies. Though some days, I wonder about Kate. This stupid turd-eating maggot brain almost did a murder on me. I hadn't yet decided who to side with, so I let fate decide. It wasn't Railroad, I can tell you that much. In fact, I ended up turning them into a red line of my own. So much faster. Pam ran away from me like she knew what I did. And something primal awoke in me. Not like with Cleo though. That's different. That's between me and the gun store wall. Snuggled deep in Virgil's stinky bachelor cave. I got the plans, but before I could escape, Kate decided now was a good time to air out her addiction arc. We need to find Vault 95 to get her off the chunk. New priority unlocked. Out in the wild again. I lounged with some spooky fellows.
I made some new friends.
A wild alpha deathclaw appeared. I don't think I've made that sound before. Then bam, more problems. Ghouls decided to pile in.
Oh no, not now.
While I was busy with the rotting nerf herders, Kate was doing a fantastic job playing the bait. Again. The Deathclaw realized soon that lizards aren't allowed in my playpen, and bolted because getting shot was starting to irritate its skin. I stimpacked Kate so she could go back to getting slammed around. She even tagged me for it. That's love, baby.
Holy shite! Deathclaw!
It's good that you noticed. I think the brain trauma is getting to her. Yeah, suck on that, stupid lizard.
Following that absolute zoo of an encounter, I picked Wasteland Whisperer rank 2. Vault 95, of course, was filled with gunners.
Excuse you? Oh, I shot a mannequin.
The 2 assault drones kept looking nice with me like I insulted their ancestral assembly lines. I planned to throw the nearby Brotherhood troopers under the bus, but I figured they were too busy to help me. Out of options, I settled on roping the orcs into my troubles instead. The fanny scorching buckets of bad news tore through them in no time at all, but it allowed me to take them on one by one. Still, somehow, painfully difficult. For a brief moment, I thought that was the worst of it. Boy, was I wrong. The entrance alone had me crying tears of sweat. An assaultron bullied me into a corner, and my life briefly disappointed before my eyes. It didn't get better deeper in. I used most of my stim packs. Even tryharding didn't help, but mines did. Eventually, my 2 remaining brain cells fired in unison, and I remembered to try pacify. It actually worked. That would have been nice an hour ago. The gunner commander playing the dungeon boss was also a massive pain in my ribs. After that ball, Kate started getting cold feet. I had to take a little something to not lose my crap, and gave her the old speech check massage. She sat on the bench, I flicked on the toxic purge, and went into the room to watch.
Is it working? I think it's working. Here, hold my hand. Grabs palm. I couldn't restart it.
Sometime later, the insides of some raiders went outside for a walk, just so I could mark another spot on the map. I made a pit stop at Shah's View Amphitheater, not because I needed clothes, but because I wanted clothes, just in case my settlement needs more fashion. I applied Pokemon logic, turned them into ghost types, using a high-impact evolution stone known as Brick. It was super effective. Now armed with more brain juice than before, I became a master hacker.
You said it.
That morning, I decided to take over the boat, before the game even told me to, just to check if the Institute's metallic intern was already on duty, or if the bandits respawned like pimples on a teenage mole rat. I found something appropriate to wear for the occasion. For Kate, of course. Before getting my answer, Kate opened up the can of worms that are her feelings. I took a drink to praise myself, and we decided to get hitched. We tied the knot then and there in the captain's cabin.
Bring it!
Ow. I think I might have pulled a muscle or something.
Okay, so the droid isn't here yet.
I got a sick new gun for Kate, a wedding present, so the trip was not a total waste. And even better, I was right. Weapon Emporiums sometimes do sell mini nukes. That evening, I spoke to Preston Please Help Garvey about the next step in kidnapping science, and turned to the one man I could count on, the one guy who can't make a bed unless I build it first. Anyway, somewhere between misclicks and divine idiocy, I accidentally vaporized the entire base during assembly. Sent a lot of folks plummeting like a sack racing bowling pins. It was glorious. Anyway, I built the thing, and Morse coded myself straight into the Institute.
Hold on to your butt!
But secured.
Inside the place, when talking to the little drone, the voice lines overlapped like bad improv.
Sean,
Father, what's going
it's
on?
me.
What's happening?
Yes,
What's going on?
it's me.
Father?
Your dad.
Father!
I met Sean. He inherited my crooked nose, a true heir. I signed up for the fun science crew, went around talking to the eggheads, and after proving I could walk in a circle, I got sent back to Lipetalia. Luckily, not all the pirates respawned for round 2. Then the Brotherhood dropped in. Uninvited, but useful. I sat back and let them do the heavy lifting. Back in our honeymoon suite, X6 showed up with a reset code. I mounted it on the drone, and off it went, beamed back home like a misbehaving ET. Filled with excitement, I went to check out my new room. It had all the comforts of a dentist's waiting area. Then I ran back to father for the next assignment.
Yeah. Did I surprise you?
Hello, Father. Tell me, what would you do when someone has stolen from you?
Is this about the wine?
On my way to Bunker Hills, some chucklehead had forgotten their minds all over the place. Once at the battlefield, I skipped the front door drama and took a shortcut over the fence. A railroad heavy came along, and let me tell you, he soaked up bullets like a depressed sponge. I picked Locksmith 2 as my next perk mid-combat. There's always room for career development. I could have been done with this place much faster, but remembered Pacify was a thing. Spent a good while trying to Jedi mind trick this goon into murder, and once I succeeded, he chose to attack the Corso with me. My only problem with the place was, every time I peeked, a heavy turned me into a meat jigsaw puzzle. My limbs kept falling off like bad DLC. At the end of the tunnel, we successfully shipped the 40 returned droids back to the factory. Afterwards, I met with father at CIT ruins, ready to bask in fatherly approval, until Kate screamed and fell off the roof.
I have a new pet here in Sanctuary. Aww. So I've been building a little, Got a level up in the middle of that.
The Deathclaw who interrupted me helped with that.
Eeny, meeny, whatever. I made few of these pods with water pumps inside, and each one of them contains 3. Then I decided to fill that area out. I started filling this area out here. My goal was to fill all of this. Wherever there is dirt, there should be a pump. Honestly, too much waiting. And this is how much water we make each tick. It's about a few.
And 1 tick of water is worth 5,000 caps. Pretty good. I keep trading for more materials, but screws keep freaking running out. It's so slow.
As you can see, I also like how convenient these little generators are. I was planning to only use them and fill all the houses too with generators, but then I got bored, which happens. And then I just started slamming whatever I have materials for, because they keep running out.
Next, I stopped by the directorate meeting. Got named as the next mascot. Ali briefed me on my next task. I ascended like a majestic goose, and I was off to steal an alligator power dangle thingamabob from Mass Fusion. I was promptly welcomed by the Brotherhood with the enthusiasm of a wasp nest. Next round, I tried Psycho and Medex to boost my chances, only to get addicted to both of them. Amazing. It did shift the scales in my favor a little, but I needed to tip the balance further. Stealth Boy? Worthless. Might as well have rubbed mud on my chest. Adding Jet and Buff out into the cocktail did the trick. I had a fighting chance. Once the big guy was down, the scribes and whatnot crumbled like wet lasagna. In a fit for petty justice, I drew all their bodies off the rooftop. Couldn't move the Iron Buns Duchess, so I settled for her armor. In the elevator down, Kate finally reported in, having finished whatever invisible errand she was doing in the void. I used the stealth boy to avoid being a target, but didn't realize it had run out when the elevator hit the ground.
Hey!
From this point on, chems were my best friend. I was legally a chem smoothie every fight, which is pretty exciting since I usually don't even remember they are a thing. I ignored what I could from the rest of the pro force and slithered into the elevator as fast as I could. Downstairs, I tried the Protectron strategy again. That, of course, turned against us. I also learned that you can release the Assaultrons early. Having them out of the picture when the sentry bot comes is great, so I set the scene, and as expected, it all went just fine and nothing exploded in my face.
Oh my lord.
I think this is the first time I use VATS in this run. Felt like I just punched myself in the moral compass. Then I prepared for the Securitron and dove into the glowing pool of sadness to get that Berry McMuffin. The Securitron can't get into the decontamination room, so all it takes is some patience to take it down. That or Chemfield Rampage. At level 26, I picked Gunnut Mark III. My guns weren't traumatizing enough yet, and I handed Ali the Berry Alligator. A distraction struck. Lawrence and his bro decided to host a mental breakdown in the pro science department. I gave them a healthy dose of verbal cranial massage and my divine nude glow. They settled down when I offered them complimentary pizzas. Newton gave me more fuel for my personality as payment. Great, just what I needed. For my next task, I needed to go recruit a new scientist. Near Arcjet, I watched 2 Deathclaws duke it out. Nature is beautiful. Until it notices you're watching. They spotted me spectating and voted to end my bloodline. A bro bird also joined the mixer. I lured them all to the gunner stationed outside the job center. Nothing's ever simple. A wild raider suddenly appeared. I offered him to Grey Garden as fertilizer. After that, I seduced the door into joining the Institute and picked Chemist as my next perk so chems last 50% longer. You can probably imagine why. Further down the plot, I gave a speech, fixed a radio in Diamond City, and found 8 missiles in the radio guy's shack. What was he planning to do with them? It's always the quiet ones you gotta watch out for. Following that, we gathered in the Institute basement. I put the berry avocado casserole in the oven and greeted my soon-to-be employees by throwing a box at them, just so they know they are in good hands. Then came the directorate meeting, round 2. This time I was the Captain Science. I called for battle and pro blood. Before diving headfirst into the blender of war, I went on a panic shopping spree for medical supplies. Just whatever vendors I could remember by name or smell. I even played Breaking Bad in Sanctuary, cooking chems in a row like a dinner service. My potion stock was up to 78 stim packs. Maybe this is enough, maybe I overdid it. I tried to put my improved gun nut perk to work, but I ran out of materials faster than I could cry. My dreams of weapon upgrades died screaming. I decided to skip the ceremonial walk to the relay in the Institute and instead fast switched straight into the pro airport. I was dead on arrival. It was like teleporting into an ant nest someone just peed in. New plan? Walk there from the nearby rob car building building, still faster than waiting for the Institute elevator. I decided to be a patient sniper. The fog was a big help, but Kate had a plan of her own.
Okay, Kate. Okay. You do you.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Once a bro bird arrived on the scene, I noped into the parking hall like a tactical raccoon. This turned out to be a great vantage hole. Save for a few little guys, the bro force didn't really want to enter my nest. Probably a stupid stition, or parking fines or something. I picked my first damage perk mid-combat, sniped through the door until I was out of targets, and all the power armors had their pilots outside and liquidated. Funny thing, my sniper was the only gun I didn't upgrade. Then I repeated the same nonsense from the opposite side. Efficiency through stubbornness. Inside, things went a little smoother. I sniped everyone on the landing pad from the stairway. Once again, the bro force didn't push me because they were scared. Then I hit the first of the 3 shield generators, allowing my backup to be blinked in. On the way to the second generator, a bro bird fell on me. I took the elevator up, lobbed a grenade, and ignored the angry peanut gallery surrounding me.
Yeah. Something up there? Something up there, guys? Huh?
For the third generator, I found a convenient hole to shoot through without having to say hi to the gods. After taking down Captain Exoskeleton, I dropped all my Institute beacons to summon as much help as possible, and a droid teleported in to hack their glorified metal Ken doll. I was blasting around with my missile launcher, mostly hitting enemies. Everything was going great, until another bro bird belly flopped on the virus droid, and reset the whole thing. When Elder Maxon arrived on the scene, the playtime was over. I couldn't run into cover fast enough and he scorched what little body hair I had on me. Round 2, chems on. Stimpaks flowing. Sanity optional. For whatever reason, this round was smoother. Even Maxon joined the fight downstairs like a true gentleman instead of getting the drop on me. I tried to toast him before the teleport yanked me away.
No!
Oh well, maybe it was better he got hit by the blimp instead.
And so, the cookie fumbles. Ooh, level up. Hey, darling. Came to watch the show, eh? Now, there is one more thing left to do. As a reward for succeeding everything, I created a lover's nest for me and Kate. Isn't it magnificent?
You have a good sleep? I know I did.
I'm very glad to hear that.
The amount of trophies, food, buckets and other things I legally acquired were not that impressive, honestly. I severely overestimated the size of my vault, but hope springs eternal. I stood in place like a warning sign for future generations. For like a week, waiting for water to accumulate. Kate would keep herself busy meanwhile with activities like cooking, step-ups, or silently judging me, but she would always end up sitting behind me and enjoying the sights. Sometimes the water would have trouble spawning, in which case I'd go over to see the Trudies, not buying anything, just silently staring. It drove her nuts. Once I had 1000 waters on hand, worth 13k caps by the way, I spent 36 minutes dropping all of them into the vault. The sheer real estate of disappointment was legendary. 1000 cans of purified water barely filled a corner. All that effort, all that planning, for what?
To be honest, I think I'm done.
I expressed this conclusion the healthiest way I knew how, by nuking it all. The results shocked even me. Unbelievably disappointing. Not even the nuclear explosion could make it feel full. And I beat Fallout 4 naked. That's it for this time, folks. This challenge kept getting harder towards the end. The beginning was actually pretty darn easy. Do the engagement things to help me out. Tell me in the comments what I could have done better, or if you have other challenges, less games for me to play. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Take care now. Bye bye then.